that was fighting for gay rights, and people were killed.
Nobody was killed at Stonewall.
Nobody was killed.
The other day, I was doing the usual polls that I put together for the community tab. It's fun to see how the fan base votes depending on what the prompt is, or the options of queens provided. It also serves as a discussion forum for you guys to comment on, and engage in conversations with each other that actually open up my mind into the greater scope of what's going on in terms of fan perception. For some reason though, I did a recent post about the most recent winners and the most recent runner-ups, and noticed quite a discrepancy when it came to the amount of people that were rooting for given contestants, or even winners that the fans were most excited for. And it all boiled down to one angle, which is that the fan favorites in finales recently have sort of been ignored, and instead the less popular queen has gotten the crown. Yet what does this mean for the way the fan base remembers a season? I really wanted to explore this topic in a way that doesn't undermine the current winner of a given season, and more so focuses in on the discrepancy between fans' perceptions of who's the most deserving of earning the title, the outcome that ends up happening instead, and the effects that come from it in the way that people look back on a given edition. But before we start, this video is sponsored by Raycon. So I've been using Raycon's Essential Open Earbuds lately, and honestly, they've been a nice upgrade to my day. They're open ear, so instead of plugging your ears, they just sit outside the canal. You get such clear sound, which for me is great when I'm walking around, editing, or just trying to ignore the real world completely. And because it's Black Friday and Cyber Monday season, they're up to 30% off right now. What I like the most is how light they feel. They don't dig into your ear, they don't fall out, and that little rotation hook keeps them in place when I'm working out or doing errands. It's very put them on and forget they're there. And sound wise, they hold up. Raycon basically gives you the same quality as the big brands, but at half the price. Plus, they have over 3 million customers and a 30-day happiness guarantee, which is reassuring if you're picky with audio gear. A few features that make them easy to use every day is the open ear design keeps things comfortable and safe, while still giving you immersive audio. The multi-angular hook lets you adjust the fit exactly how you want. They're lightweight and flexible, so you can wear them for hours without thinking about it. Black Friday is coming up, and Raycon audio products are up to 30% off site-wide. It's a solid time to upgrade your setup or grab a gift for someone. So if you want to check them out, just click the link in the description or go to buyraycon.com/GreenGayOpen to save up to 30% off on Raycon products. That's buyraycon.com/GreenGayOpen. Now let's begin. One of the first times that I ever took notice of what it meant to have the fanbase's support was while watching season 8. The finale consisted of a top 3, Bob the Drag Queen, Kim Chi, and Naomi Smalls. Each of them had done a great job throughout the competition, yet Bob had vastly overperformed, having a total of 3 challenge wins, only landing once in the bottom 2, and quite frankly had an unshakable confidence that really did go hand in hand with what we had come to expect out of a winner. When it came to Kim Chi, she had won a total of 2 challenges and never had to lip sync for her life, but when it came to her personality, she was a lot more soft-spoken than Bob, and inhibited more of a vulnerableness, or I guess insecurities, when it came to moments within some of the challenges she was having a hard time with. Overall though, the most striking difference between the two was Kim Chi's dominance when it came to runway showcases, while Bob's dominance was more so in the challenges, plus the added bonus of her personality always stealing the show. Regardless, for one reason or another, when it came to online support going into the finale, Kim Chi was by far in the lead, having a considerable amount of distance from Bob the Drag Queen, even though Bob technically had done an overall better job throughout the season in terms of track record. It was the first time I found myself thinking, does being a fan favorite give an upper hand when heading into the finale? Could someone that didn't necessarily do the best still be able to take the crown for being able to win the crowd over? Well, Bob the Drag Queen went on to win season 8, which made sense. Even looking at the year prior when we had the season 7 top 3, ironically, Pearl, who had performed the worst out of the finalists, was the fan favorite to win the crown over Violet and Ginger. And these two situations, it showed how just because you have the most fan support out of the finalists doesn't mean that you'll get the crown. What trumps over this will always be the merit of the competition in itself. At least that's what it seemed like at this point in time. Going into the season 9 and 10 era, we see things start to shake up a little bit. Out of the top 4 in season 9, Sasha Velour was the fan favorite even though she was 3rd place when it came to track record. Yet she would go on to win the crown thanks to the last-minute twist of the lip sync for the crown. Then in season 10, Aquaria was the fan favorite out of the top 4, along with having the best track record. So her winning the title was pretty well received. For season 11, while Evie Oddly was the fan favorite, she did not have the best track record. In fact, Brooklyn Heights had showcased a much elevated run throughout the competition, along with having decent fan support. Yet ultimately, Evie Oddly would win the title. Again, for the most part, this was a pretty well received crowning, since nevertheless, you could argue that Evie's win signified a more unique form of drag in the winner circle that we hadn't really seen since Sharon Needles won season 4. But what's the point of mentioning any of this? Well, looking back at the fanbase's support during each given finale, even though there was moments that you could tell had discrepancies between the person that would go on to win the season versus the general fanbase perception, it never really damaged the way people remembered a given edition moving forward. For example, even with season 12, out of the top 3, the fan favorite based on the social media engagement of teams posts from the official Drag Race accounts that were posted 2 weeks prior to the grand finale, Crystal Method was in the lead by a landslide, with Gigi Good in 2nd place and Jada Essence Hall was in 3rd. And when it came to track record, Gigi Good was in the lead, quickly followed by Jada. But despite Gigi overall having more fan support and a better track record, Jada Essence Hall ended up getting the crown. That being said, nobody was necessarily upset with the outcome, with season 12 going on to be a really positively remembered edition. Flash forward to now. The past couple years, while some may argue still has similar patterns to what we've seen before, there's a lot more added layers to why it seems that the fan favorites losing the title is actually turning into a big hindrance for the show. But why could this be happening? Is it the fans are simply being bratty? Or is the production of Drag Race missing really big opportunities and sort of shooting themselves in the foot due to having a weird tunnel vision for how they'd like to manage things? Let me explain. In 2024, we had All Stars 9 and Global All Stars, both poorly received editions. While All Stars 9 was airing, Roxy Andrews was the fan favorite, and it was hard not to want to root for her. She was consistently doing well in the competition, had an essence of legendary vibes, and to top it off, was demolishing any lip sync she was a part of. In fact, I remember even reading a lot of comments from people that said it was clear that production was setting things up to rig it for Roxy to ultimately win the title. Yet that's not what ended up happening. Once we got to the finale of All Stars 9, it came down to either Roxy Andrews or Angeria Paris Van Michaels. Miss Vanjie was there too, but let's be realistic about the odds of this situation. Anyways, Angeria had done a great job throughout the competition too, but it's hard to deny that in terms of presence, Roxy truly felt like the main character for most of the episodes. That's not even the tip of the iceberg though. Did Roxy have a lot more fan support when it came to who most people wanted to see win? Yes. Subsequently though, Roxy also had the support of so many Ru girls in the franchise that were expressing in the week leading up to the airing of the finale that Roxy had proven herself not just on the season, but also in the work that she had done for the drag community outside of the show for decades. If anything, it felt obvious that she'd end up getting the crown, but that did not end up happening. Instead, Angeria Paris Van Michaels was crowned the winner of All Stars 9, and what followed was a firestorm of disappointment. Not only did Roxy make a vague tweet about being bitter for not winning, but Detox, a close friend of Roxy, also expressed frustrations with the outcome and even hinted that because of this, she herself wasn't gonna ever return to compete on Drag Race again due to feeling that production isn't giving the proper queens their dues. In the time since All Stars 9, it went on to be solidified as one of the least entertaining editions, and the way it ended only added to that mindset. Could this mean that if Roxy had won, things would be different? Well, let's look at a few other examples first. Global All Stars is infamous now as one of the worst editions of the series in history. If you want to hear me go into detail about this season, you can watch this video that will be linked below. In essence though, I firmly believe that despite all of the mistakes and horrible decision making that was made by production, production that they still had one chance to save the whole thing from going down in history as a garbage season. Hear me out. What we were left with when we got to the finale was a top 4 comprised of 3 queens from Ru-hosted seasons that included Alyssa Edwards, Queen Kong, and Kitty Scott Claus, and 1 queen from a non-English speaking edition, being Nolania from Drag Race Italia Season 2. At this point, the frustrations from the fanbase largely laid upon the fact that the judges had clearly been biased towards the only 3 queens that were from Ru-hosted seasons. It's not just that though. These were the contestants that didn't really need that much added exposure from being on Global All-Stars. Like, don't get me wrong, if they had all demolished the competition, then it would have been fine. But the fact of the matter was that they didn't. And instead, the 3 most popular queens from the most watched seasons of the whole cast made it all the way to the end. This automatically made Nolania the underdog of the top 4. She was the one that, in a sense, was carrying the weight of all the fallen international queens that were eliminated before her. What made tensions even higher was how it was so clear that the other 3 queens in the finale did not take Nolania seriously at all, with jokes being made to her face that she didn't really stand much of a chance at taking the crown. So imagine how much of a payoff it would have been for the viewers if they had chosen to crown Nolania as the winner of Global All-Stars. It would have made all the pain that we endured throughout the airing of the episodes completely worth it. Along with that, it would have been a chance for production themselves to try to mitigate the damage that had already been done in the season by appeasing the audience and letting the fan favorite win. Plus an overall win for international franchises in general, being able to get the recognition they deserve. Additionally, Nolania did do a great job throughout the competition, so even based on merit alone, it made sense for her to win. However, she did not. Alyssa Edwards would end up being crowned instead, becoming one of the single most predictable seasons up until that point. And pretty much after that, the whole season was sort of thrown in the garbage. It's hard to even understand what reaction the audience was supposed to have to this. Like, oh yay, the richest queen that's already a millionaire won 200,000 USD. This of course is no hate to Alyssa, because I love her as a queen, and I think she's proven a lot of people wrong with the way she's reigned as the global ambassador of the franchise. Yet it is important to acknowledge how big of a letdown it was for her to take the title, in an addition that many felt was unfair in the way they treated many of the queens from non-English speaking franchises. Now in 2025, we had season 17 and All-Stars 10. For season 17, I'm not going to spend too much time talking about this one, but out of the top 2, Jewel Sparkles was the fan favorite even though she had an abysmal track record. On the other hand, Anya Nerve had the best track record and really did dominate the whole competition. Like, to me, there was no question at all who was the most deserving to win the title. Yet for some reason, there was a lot of support that Jules received that made her a fan favorite out of the 2. Don't get me wrong, I think that Jules is an amazing queen, and her postseason run has been super impressive. But when it came to the competition, quite honestly, it was not a close call at all. Anya was miles ahead of her. Obviously, Anya ended up being crowned the winner of season 17. And for the most part, while there was a lot of upset fans, I think overall, this is one of the outliers in this list. Because yes, people tried to frame Anya's win as Ru having something against Latino queens, but at a surface level, it felt more that this was just about sheer talent with what was displayed throughout the competition. That brings us to All-Stars 10. Listen, given that this is super recent, I don't even have to explain the context behind this. Regardless, the top 2 consisted of Georges and Ginger Minj. While yes, Ginger had the better track record, even though a lot of the wins were questionable, Georges had probably the biggest discrepancy of fan support ever. Like, the percentage of people rooting for Ginger was probably below 10% at the time that the finale was about to air. The part that perplexed me the most about the outcome of this season was actually the way the final episode was set up. Like, let's ignore for a second the details of why the merge section felt so rushed and zone in on the lip sync Lollapalooza SmackDown on its own. This episode felt like Georges' victory lap. We got to see a queen go from competing on season 14 and All-Stars 9 to finally coming into a fully realized version of themselves on All-Stars 10. And not even just in terms of aesthetics, because when it came to this lip sync smackdown, she showed us that even though she's already done countless lip syncs, she managed to literally pull out moves that we hadn't seen from her before. This was quite literally one of the funnest set of lip syncs she's done in her whole Drag Race trajectory, and clearly showcased the level of effort she had put into making sure that she could display a new side of herself. Therefore, even though she had the less impressive track record, what she did in this finale should have earned her the win for the whole season. Yet, it didn't, and Ginger Minj ended up winning the crown. Let me reiterate that Ginger did do a great job this season, but it simply was not exciting at all to see her win the crown. I mean, even on paper, having a 4th time returning queen that's made it to 3 finales in her Drag Race career and overall lacks a big presence within the online fan base was a horrible way to end an edition that was filled with fan favorite queens. It was like the ultimate slap in the face from production to the viewers that they truly do not care at all what we think and how we perceive things. It actually instead solidified that even if it's obvious that things are being done in a shady or unfair way, they'll continue crowning and rewarding whoever they please. This essentially resulted in All-Stars 10 going down as yet another badly received edition. But if they had crowned Georges, it wouldn't have. In fact, it would have made the rocky second half of the competition feel worth it. Instead, it proved the loud part of the fan base that was complaining every week that things were being rigged for Ginger to be completely right, and ultimately just left viewers with a bad taste in their mouth. So what exactly should we gather from all this? Well, as I've discussed in this video, the main difference between when fan favorites lost in the past to now is that for the most part, while some fan favorites had more support from the general fan base, it was never astronomical to the point that people felt betrayed by the outcome. Examples like Kim Chi losing to Bob or Gigi Good losing to Jada Essence Hall. Yeah, sure, maybe there was an initial disappointment from some viewers, but overall, people moved on to accept the outcome and respect the winner of a given season. Yet what we've seen recently is a shift. The discrepancy between a fan favorite and the person that goes on to be crowned is huge. The most prominent examples being when Nelania lost Global All-Stars to Alyssa Edwards, or Georges losing All-Stars 10 to Ginger Minj. It seems it's become more challenging for viewers to accept these outcomes, largely due to the suspicious circumstances surrounding their wins. It's not like a disagreement between the judges panel and the audience. It's a clear juxtaposition between what queens are showcasing in the challenges every episode and the judges overlooking or blindly favoring contestants at the expense of the fairness in the competition. To be completely honest, I'm not exactly sure where things go from here. Like, it'd be one thing if there was outliers here and there of questionable outcomes of a season, yet unfortunately, it started to become a lot more of a constant occurrence that's stealing away some of the magic of the series, with many queens not wanting to return anymore as they feel that they won't be judged on equal footing. Before we end this video, I want to say that I still actively enjoy RuPaul's Drag Race, and I will be a lifelong fan / supporter of the series. My hopes is that production will start to listen to the fanbase's criticisms of their series and begin to change their approach with how they've handled most of the newest editions. To a certain extent, you have to at least meet your fanbase halfway, along with making alumni from the series comfortable enough to want to invest into competing on the franchise again. Regardless, what are your thoughts when it comes to fan favorites that have lost the crown? Who was the biggest shocker for you? And were you able to move on from the decision, or has the bad taste in your mouth remained? Let me know in the comments, and please like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I'll see you guys next time. Thanks again to Raycon for supporting the channel and sponsoring today's video. Make sure to click the link in the description and head to buyraycon.com/GreenGayOpen to get 30% off your first purchase. I want to take a moment to thank my patrons. In the Elite Pink Squad, we have Matthew Burns, Gay Uncle, Suri Tish, Las Potitas, Cool Gal Nan, Jet Sam Adams, and Natasha De Leon. And in the Gay Squad, we have Lone Resident, Christine Gregory. And in the Green Squad, we have Cayman Rider Furry, Edgar Allan Pup, The Only Sean, IJS, Not a Punch But a Keek, Jack Beck, Galeria Gomez, Sarah G, Scarlet Rose, Boiled Peanut, Not an Omelet But an Egg, Max Whale, Dea, Dea, and Niall O'Hearing. If you'd like to see your name on the screen, you can support me on Patreon. The link will be in the description.